cell phones were a thing by then. They just weren't common, but no
Al
cell
Gore
phone.
hadn't created the internet yet.
I mean, he was too busy hunting man, bear, pig. It's super serial.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi faccio il feeling. Spirito Santo. I think this just might be my masterpiece.
So, do you like podcasts? Did you want to ever make your own, but just thought it wasn't for you, that it was too hard? Well, it really isn't that hard if you have the right partners. I mean, Justin and I, we use Buzzsprout, and it's been fantastic. It's real easy to use. It gets you listed on like every major podcast platform. I mean, we're on Pandora, we're on Stitcher, Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, you name it, we're there. It just makes it super easy. You get these cool looking website that you can customize. You got these awesome audio players that you can just pick up and drop into other websites. It's the easiest way to promote your episodes. It really is. And not only that, but you go to Buzzsprout and you've already got 100,000 other people already using it, can tell you how great it is. It's just really the best way to go. And if you want to get started, all you got to do is take some gear that you already have. I mean, I started with a gaming headset, and we moved my way up. So it's not hard, I'm promising you. And if you want to get started, you just click on the Buzzsprout affiliate link in the show notes, and you get a $20 Amazon gift card. If you sign up, and it helps us out too, and it's just good all around.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Average Joe's Movie Clubhouse presents Schlock Talk, where we watch hot ass trash so you don't have to. As always, I'm your host Joey, and tonight I'm joined by a special guest, and you might all know him better as my regular Average Joe's Movie Clubcast host, Justin. How you doing this evening, brother?
Hey, I guess I could be a special ghost if you need me to. Anything for you.
Oh, anything for me. Well, that's awfully sweet. Don't ghost me, bro. Then we couldn't talk about movies. So, so tonight we are going to dig into 1989's martial arts cyberpunk film, Cyborg. And so before we delve into it too much, this is where I would ask you a bunch of questions. I'm probably still going to ask you a couple, but most of them we've already covered somewhere on the main cast. But so if I'm not mistaken, typically you don't really do a ton of B movies or anything like that, right?
No, not generally. I'm more about trying to see the best of the best out there. I barely have time to do that. So usually the schlocky movies, they come up here and there and on recommendations, but not too often.
And when you're watching through the Criterion collection,
I did
had that one.
Yeah, Equinox. That was a unpleasant surprise. I was not expecting that to be a pile of dog shit, but there you go.
Well, oddly enough, I just kind of thought about this. I didn't do this when I picked this movie. I did pick this because I had already seen it. It had been a long time since I'd seen it, but I figured it wouldn't be the it wouldn't be throwing you into something like Lamageddon or Don't Fuck in the Woods or
Yeah, I was curious about that. It seemed like this was a little schlocky light, so
yeah. I wanted to dip your toes in. But remember how on your podcast you picked Sneakers, and that's what we did on when I guest spotted with Sneakers. It was one you would kind of always wanted to see. It'd been on your shelf for a long time, and you're like, oh, this is kind of like the first episode. Well, I had already seen this, but this was my introduction to like B movies when I was like in third grade. So at that point it'd been out for a little bit, but this was actually a movie that I watched with my stepdad. I watched it a whole bunch. Now I hadn't seen it in years. I couldn't have told you other than Jean-Claude Van Damme was in it. The dude from Point Break was in it. I could kind of give you like the plot and a couple of things here and there, but as soon as we started like watching it and going through it, I was like, yep, I remember this just like vivid as day. And it's probably been 20 years somewhere about since I've seen it. But we'll get into some of that a little bit here in a bit.
I kind of had that experience a few years back with the Rookie of the Year. Like, I didn't think I remembered it, but man, it was just like right back in my head whenever it fired back up. So, yeah, we all have those.
Yeah. So I know you're not really big into schlock, so I kind of wanted to just kind of let you dip your toes in. So maybe you would come back again in the future. I'm not going to do the normal favorite genre, favorite movie, favorite director, because if you listen to the main podcast, we've both answered that a few times I probably have it on one episode, but probably through more than one episode. So with that being said, we're going to move on kind of right into the movie. So like I said, it came out in 1989. So it was made on a budget of $500,000, and it grossed between $9.5 million to $10.2 million at the box office. So it's a pretty good return on investment. So some other cool things, little facts here and there. Did you pick up any on any of the names of the characters?
I did not.
All right, so Jean-Claude was Gibson Rickenbacker. You had Fender Tremolo. You had Pearl Prophet. So they named a lot of them. Oh, you had a guy named Marshall Stratt. There's a character named Les, and then Pearl Prophet and A.D. Simmons. So all after well-known manufacturers and models of guitars and a couple of other instruments. They call him Gibbs almost the whole movie. Like, they don't really call him Gibson until the very end. And they never call him Rickenbacker. So, it's also entirely shot in Wilmington, North Carolina. So, right up the way from us. Which, knowing that going in this time, like, it was like, oh yeah, you can tell this is like North and South Carolina. Like, it just looks like it.
Felt like home watching it.
Right. So also during this movie, Jean-Claude accidentally knocked a dude's eye out.
Oh Jesus!
With a prop knife. And Homeboy sued him and was awarded basically $500,000, $485,000, which are like, oh man, for an eye. But I mean, like 1989, that's a lot of movie, or a lot of money.
Eye for an eye.
And then they did cut a lot of scenes or edit them to keep it from being an X-rated movie, which is kind of crazy because you think of X-rated movies, you think like a lot of sex or nudity. But they actually, I'm sure you noticed, like a lot of the deaths were off screen or off camera. Like it would break the dude's neck, but you would hear it snap, but you wouldn't see it. So they did some of that. And I think the only other really big thing was that this was initially supposed to be a sequel to He-Man. And they were also trying to make a Spider-Man movie. But both were going to be shot by Albert Payan, the director. So Canon, though, was in some money troubles, and they canceled their deals with Mattel for Masters and Marvel for Spider-Man. So they had already spent $2 million on costumes and the sets, and just kind of combined it into make Cyborg. So, like, even though Cyborg's, they only spent $500,000 on that movie, they had already spent $2 million on some of the other stuff before that. But that's really all I've got as far as cool stuff about the movie.
Yeah, I was surprised about that aspect of Yeah, you could tell there was some money put into the production design of this thing, so that's not typical schlock. So,
yeah, but yeah, no, this definitely was, like I said, my first B movie. Oh, there was one other thing. So Jean-Claude had come off a kickboxer, and they offered him the role. He could be the lead in either a movie called Delta Force 2.
Okay.
American Ninja 3 or Cyborg, which he picked Cyborg, obviously, as he's the star of this movie. Although he's admitted that he's not his favorite movie of his that he's done. But outside of that, so we're going to kind of jump into this bad boy right now.
Cool.
So it starts out, and you can see, you're pretty sure it's the Brooklyn Bridge, and, just kind of in the water, and it just tells you it's in the future, and then it tells you that it's New York, or it says New York and in the future. So now you know for sure that it's the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, pretty cool matte painting there.
Yeah, and it's even in the background of the movie poster, but most of the movie really doesn't even take place in New York. Like, it starts in New York, and then you kind of see a road sign that they're in like Hoboken, and then after that they're like really quickly into Charleston, and then from Charleston to Atlanta. And like from Charleston to Atlanta is not a far distance, but walking it's a far distance.
Yeah, they like suddenly appear there after they crucified the poor guy.
yeah. So I mean they do some stuff. I remember thinking that Fender, who you might also know from Point Break, him getting his ass kicked by Patrick Swayze, and then getting arrested later on. But he's the main bad guy, and I remember him just being terrifying. Just he had the chainmail, he had the big sunglasses.
Dude needs to clean those things. I mean, it's hard to
Oh
see
my
out of
God.
shades it's hard to see out of shades to begin with. They're like caked with all kinds of stuff throughout this thing. And what
Well,
was
I
that
imagine-
was that like an ADR voice he had going on?
Oh,
Go after them.
I mean, maybe so. Like, I'm guessing, that he thought it made him look more like a badass, that his glasses were all dirty and mucked up and all of that. One thing I never noticed when I was a kid that I did notice this time around. So, like, obviously, like, his teeth are gross, but in the flashback scenes, like, his teeth are not, like, they're not perfect, but they're not gross. And that flashback scene, that was some of the stuff I actually remembered more than anything was the flashback. And that was, with the barbed wire, with the girl with the barbed wire. That was something that just always stuck with me. It was
Yeah,
kind of crazy.
Definitely leans on those flashbacks throughout to kind of get the gist of what's going on.
Yeah, they give you the flashbacks to make you kind of feel for Homeboy, being Jean-Claude or Gibbs, as it were. But anyway, the premise is here, we start out and you see this guy, we called him in this watch through fake David Hasselhoff, because he looked like they wanted him to be David Hasselhoff, escorting a female. And he keeps telling her, hey, we got to run, find a slinger. So, which Slinger was the original title for this movie before they changed it to Cyborg. So if you thought Jean-Claude Van Damme was the titular Cyborg, that is incorrect. He is protecting a cyborg. But he is a slinger, hence the original name Slinger. And slingers are just people who fight pirates. Or yeah, they fight pirates or rogues or whatever you want to call a band of like a gang, like a post-apocalyptic game. They called pirates here. He also apparently would smuggle people out of the city back in the day, which was in Lumberton. They had that nice sign in the background. So needless to say, we see the cyborg is starting to get away, and then she gets caught, and Jean-Claude shows up and just randomly saves her before he gets knocked out. And Fender tells the cyborg that he's going to either kill her or he'll take her to Atlanta and basically hold the cure hostage for money, essentially. He wants to own the cure because he likes the chaos and death and et cetera, et cetera. So it's not a great plot, but it's fine. I think this might be the best one of the ones we've watched on this podcast so far. So anything you want to add here, or want to cut in and keep going with the plot, or anything? We don't have to go just down the line like we normally do. We can bounce around or do whatever the fuck we want. So,
all right. I mean, it's a little disappointing that I think there's like 2 Cyborg like moments in the whole thing where we like see that her brain is somewhat robotic, and I guess she has some kind of data stored in there that she needs to get down to the CDCA to help save the world. God, do you recall seeing her face like whenever like it had separated? It was like ugly as hell. I don't know what was going on.
Oh yeah, that was some bad makeup or whatever the hell they had going on. You're talking about right after she pulled her wig off and just had the back of her head exposed. That was not pretty at all. It didn't even look really like the same person or anything. No, it was real bad. Hey, I mean, there's your 500K coming through for you. My other thing with the Cyborg is, okay, so I know it's post-apocalyptic, but we see running sewers at one point in this movie, and they had enough technology in Atlanta to turn her into a fucking cyborg, but she, couldn't transpond the information from that computer to them back in Atlanta, or obviously it's made in 89. I mean, cell phones were a thing by then. They just weren't common, but no cell phone.
Al Gore hadn't created the internet yet.
I mean, he was too busy hunting Man Bear Pig. It's super serial. And also, they made her a cyborg, but she has no, fighting skills or weapons built into her to help defend herself. And they send her on this crazy-ass mission with one dude. Like, she goes to leave that room the first time, and there's 7-8 dudes, and they send her with one guy. And I kind of get it, hey, we're gonna be stealthy, yada yada. But maybe wanted to send more than just one dude.
Yeah, the other girl gets more screen time than the Cyborg ever does. So I would have much rather seen a Jean-Claude Van Damme kind of, I don't know, his arm come apart and shoot missiles at some point, rather than this chick carrying. Basically, she's a human USB stick.
Yeah, although this is 89, so she's a human floppy diskette.
There you go.
I did like the other homegirl. I completely forgot that. It was just for a brief second, but I don't even remember that she showed her tits. In that one scene where Jean-Claude shuts her down.
All right.
It's very brief, yeah. And then I didn't remember that at all, and I didn't remember him and the short-haired girl in the flashbacks having sex right before Fender and them fucked him up. And I was just but yeah, I was 9 or 10. I didn't care about titties then. So it was just something I completely just didn't think about. I just really remembered the split, the big split scene, and the girl having to hold their weight on the barbed wire. So what I'm talking about there is in the flashback, Gibson has taken a job smuggling this girl and her brother and sister out of the town. Their father has died, and so she's smuggling them out with him. And they get to this house out in the country, and he's totally into him. He cuts his hair, he puts the knives away in this big old chest, and they're going to be a family. And then all of a sudden, looking in the window after they do the deed is Fender and his gang. Yeah, the pirates are here. And what they do is they wrap the boy, the woman, and Fender in barbed wire over a well, and then tell the younger sister that if she can hold their weight, they'll live. And so you just see them slowly going down as it flashes back to her hands with, you can see blood on her hands as the things are sliding through, the barbed wire sliding through. It's important to note that in the flashbacks, they show Gibson wearing a necklace, which you then see him give to the young girl, who then ends up is basically Fender's right-hand girl, his number one bitch.
Eventually. She kind of just appears midway through the movie.
Yeah, she's there, and then but she's all up on him, and she's the main girl. They have a bunch of girl pirates. They fight the other homegirl whose name I can't remember. But yeah, he ends up he confronts them in this really tall building, and he kills a couple of them, but then he gets shot and he starts running, and Homegirl's been knocked the hell out, and they go through a sewer, which is still working. The only thing we really
comes out in like the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in the middle of like a salt marsh, and it's like that doesn't seem right, but maybe it's been overtaken in however long it's been since the living death has crystallized civilization.
Speaking of the living death, this had a very Walking Dead feel to me.
Oh, I mean, Walking Dead isn't in Atlanta, and they get to that scene at the end. See, you said Walking Dead, I said Last of Us. Okay. Just it reminded me of Last of Us, which, you know, I think that's a pretty big enough game franchise. But if you don't know, it is a post-apocalyptic zombie in quotation marks. This is not zombies in the typical sense, but zombie horror survival game. But yeah, no, I could see The Walking Dead with, you know, the CDC, and then there's a plague, and they're trying to save and stop it, and there's groups of people running around, you know, bandits, whatever you want to call them, fucking shit up. So yeah, no, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, my ears definitely perked up when they mentioned Charleston. Obviously, that's my hometown. And then there's this one point where they're passing this sign that says, "What, Wasteland this way, Temptation that way," and then Charleston. It's like, okay.
Yep. Can't go through the wasteland.
But yeah, Wilmington definitely looks like, you know, the whole like Carolina coast. So yeah, some pretty good photography of, you know, that region. It's kind of, if you ever watch that movie Dear John or whatever, it's, you know, it'll have a similar look. That's what our coast looks like. And then I'll jump to that nifty knife boot. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, of course.
Roundhouse kick.
Jean-Claude, he has to do spinning jump kicks, and he has to do splits. If not, it's not a Jean-Claude movie. It's just not. Also, the main two guys, they are shredded to shit. And it's like, this is post-apocalyptic America.
Yeah.
There's no food. Like, why are you guys working out so much? And two, like, because this isn't like, oh, I'm yoked because I just lift heavy stuff, you know, like around whatever work I'm doing. This is, we went to the gym.
Like 16-pack abs going on.
So it's just like, obviously, you know, small detail, whatever. You know, it's some eye candy for the ladies, and I guess for the gents out there that are into that, or you just, you know, need motivation or whatever in your life. And it was just like, they get to the final showdown, and they're both shirtless because he takes off the chainmail to fight in the rain, and they're both just.
He had sunglasses on at first, but he shreds those.
Yeah, well, I mean, he decided to stop being whatever that guy is who sang Sunglasses at Night, and which, you know, is probably around that same time period, oddly enough. But and they decided to fight, and, you know, they have a fight in the rain, and again for the second time, Fender is beating the shit out of Gibbs. I mean, beating the shit out of him, throws him through a car throws him through a car windshield before Haley, who was the girl who let him slide into the well and almost die. She's like, stop it. And her voice, I thought she was going to break glass with that voice. Like, she definitely still sounded like a little child, as opposed to, I'm guessing, someone who was between 18 and 22, somewhere in that ballpark.
And one of those concrete structures, do you recall like a really cool shot where like the camera's looking up and like he throws this guy down like some kind of like maybe it's like an elevator shaft kind of looking thing. It looks pretty sweet, but very cheesy scream. That's definitely one of the schlocky elements here. Is a lot of the sound effects are pretty hokey, along with the editing. Did you catch any of that Monty Python editing where he's like, he's running and he's running and he's running a little more and he's running a little more, and it's like finally they hit each other.
A little bit, yeah. And then in the salt marsh, one of the because when they're running through the salt marsh, there's a woman chasing them, and then there's a guy chasing them, and the guy has on like these like feather shoulder pads or fur shoulder pads, not feather but like fur. Looks kind of Native American, and he's got a pole or a pipe. He doesn't have a spear; it's a pipe. He lets out a Native American like kind of war cry chant, and I was like, okay, well that's a thing. So we're talking about the editing. So there is one part when they were doing some of that cutting to make it not be X-rated, where he was fighting somebody, and the guy died, and they cut it out, so it just looked like the guy he was fighting disappeared. I didn't catch that, but that apparently is a thing that happened. I kind of want to go back and see if I could find it, but so yeah, since we're talking about things with editing, it's kind of crazy.
And you mentioned the chick he's with, which we get to see her full backside naked on the beach there, and then later on, when she gets knocked out in one of those structures, and like there's a lot of emphasis on her ass there, but yeah, he's carrying around, and she looks like a sack, but I mean, obviously that was some kind of like dummy body at that point, but yeah, I got a kick out of watching him haul her around because she was out cold.
Yeah, she was she was not a huge woman. I mean, she was very, like an actress, like a regular size actress, but I'm sure running around with her on his shoulders would A, not have been as safe, and B, probably a little bit harder to do than whatever they had up there while she was KO'd.
Because that included going down in the sewer, right?
Yeah, they go down into the sewer right before we get to the salt marsh, and she actually fights one of the chicks and cuts her hand off, but then she catches a backhand, which just straight KOs her again. Which her weakness was the backhand, because she took a backhand in the ultimate fight, and it knocked her out too. So this is where he gets he's already been fought, he's been shot, he's been running and fighting people, and he ends up basically down and out. And Fender and the rest of the gang finally catch up, and then he's got nothing. He's trying to fight Fender, and Fender beats the hell out of him on that beach before they crucify him. And they put him up on a ship mast, wrap his arms around it, put the arrows through the wrists, but they leave the feet. They leave the feet untied. So they did half a stigmata, and this is where you start seeing more of, like, they finally kind of finish the backstory. They'd been giving you a little bit pieces of the backstory here and there. This is where they kind of finish it, and dude, he kind of hulks the fuck out, like, and just
he chops that mask down like it's like his leg's an axe somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminded me in Kickboxer, where he goes in and he's watching the main bad guy, whose name I don't remember right now, and I'll probably remember it later. Where he's kicking the door frame with his shin, and so when he finally goes to learn how to train in that movie to revenge his brother, he ends up like kicking a tree in half with his shin. That's kind of what I was thinking about during that, and I was like, really? Okay, well, I guess you got to do what you got to do.
And then you had mentioned it earlier, but that money shot where he's down in the sewer, and Jean-Claude does his split move, and he stabs that dude in the head or whatever from like being wedged up in the sewer. Yeah, that was by far the best part of the flick.
Yeah, and I mean, this is where you've got like it's like blue lighting and water falling, and so I mean, yeah, that was definitely like probably the best shot as well. Like, overall, I would say, although that shot they did of them going into Atlanta, which I thought was funny because Atlanta's what's left of the old world, and then you get there and it's still just desolate and destroyed. It doesn't, like, even where the CDC is like this huge iron door that like nobody could penetrate, like to kind of like, we got to protect ourselves, and it's like, oh, and we get that nice cheesy line, well, I think he's the cure for the world, and it's like, oh god.
Then the main bad I notice is his crazy looking teeth, and he has these cutting blue eyes, which is pretty bizarre. Not really.
Yeah, so the thing I remember about those blue eyes is that I remember my stepfather, who I was watching this movie with, back in the day all the time. We had it on friggin' VHS. Telling me that I had eyes similar to his, and that was what drove all the girls crazy. Even though at that point in time I didn't really care about girls, or at least, not crazy, like yeah. So that's something that I still remember to this day, that I've got them like weird silver blue eyes that drive women crazy. And then oddly enough, I have been told that I have very nice eyes. I'm not I don't necessarily think that I do. That's what I've been told.
Pretty dreamy there, Joey. Pretty dreamy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a dreamy motherfucker, Justin. I don't know if I'm as dreamy as you, but I'm pretty dreamy.
Do what I can. So yeah, we get to that. So yeah, the final fight. A little fighting, a little stabbing, some cut to lightning to make things a little more intense.
Gotta add that drama. And so I understand it's a movie and there's movie magic, and we've already seen a dude get out of being crucified and his hands instantaneously healed. I guess he's Wolverine. I don't know.
That was pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to be fair, they still had to walk from Charleston to Atlanta, and that's pretty far. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was literally like the next scene it just went to the next scene in the movie, and they were from on the beach in Atlanta, and his hands were healed. But even more egregious is that he stabs motherfucker in the chest, not the gut, in the chest, in the solar plexus, and the dude, they like show him stop breathing, and then of course because he's a bad guy, he gets back up, and it's like,
yep, bad guy trope. Did you catch that part where like Van Damme said like mother, and then the bad guy's like fuck her? It's like, okay.
I thought he said like come on, and then he said fucker. That's what I thought.
Okay. I thought they shared the curse word. I thought it was a cute tender moment there.
Oh, that would have been cute and tender between the two of them.
Just have to throw the subtitles on next time and see what they really say.
Well, I borrowed it from Johnny. And it was a great, he had a great cut of it, but part of the way through the movie, it just started putting random subtitles on the bottom, and they would sit there for a long period of time. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, it wasn't distracting or anything, but it was a good look. I wasn't expecting that movie to look that good when I went in to watch it. So there's that. But yeah, he gets up from being stabbed in the chest with this. And this isn't like a little knife. This is like Crocodile Dundee knife. Like this is a knife, because that's what all them gentlemen carried in that movie. Were Rambo, Crocodile Dundee style knives, and they end up into a building. And how does Jean-Claude Van Damme win? He spin kicks him into a meat hook. Gotta have the spin kick.
Yep.
So
flying roundhouse.
Yep. Oh, and then homegirl dies. She attacked the big bad in the fight, and he stabbed/cut her in the gut, and that's the quickest gut stab death I've ever seen in a movie, where she just died in 5 seconds. But Haley and the Cyborg lived, and
yeah,
so we got 2 final girls instead of 3. 3 final girls is just too many. So
yep, delivers the Cyborg, and like you said, sets out on his own path into the wasteland.
Yep. And that's it.
Yeah.
So I mean that's it. So how was your well, before we get into all of that. Okay. So you can give it trash, hot trash, or hot ass trash?
Well, like I said, solid production design, decent action, and there's just a little cheese on top of that. So I guess it's just trash.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with just trash because that is the rating system that I've brought up here, but I actually really like this movie, and we'll probably try to find a physical copy of it at some point in time, because it's bad, but it's not crazy bad. It has a a story that you can follow along. It makes you okay, I understand why this guy hates this guy. I can kind of root for him. They're still very one-dimensional. He's just about revenge and what have you. But, is definitely a different kind of movie than the other stuff that I've been recording for this. But that being said, be on the lookout. This episode is episode 6, and I don't think I said that in the opening. But episode 5 should have just came out a couple weeks ago. That's going to be Thanksgiving. So if you didn't check that out on Thanksgiving, please do. And I know it's holiday season and everything, so while you're traveling around, if you've got to go to work a bunch, because if you're in retail, give this a listen. Maybe this will help brighten your day, or I don't know, you just want to hear us talk about people fighting, whatever. But do be out on the lookout, just like on Thanksgiving Day when Gobble, I was about to say Gobble Gobble motherfucker. No, when Thanksgiving dropped. Also look out on Christmas Day. We are going to have a Silent Night, Deadly Night, and that'll be back with one Night Flyer himself, Carl. And I've got some other stuff on the horizon. I've got a couple episodes already recorded, waiting to go. A couple more planned. So we got a lot more coming down the pipe here. So yeah, thanks for spending your holiday time with us when you do. You can find me at, if you want to talk to me online, you can find me at letterbox.com/Joey_P, or you can find me on the Twitter at average_Joe_E. And of course, you can find both of us at our normal stuff, Average Joe's Movie Clubcast at gmail.com and on Facebook. Anywhere you got a Twitter handle or anything you want them to tweet at you, yell at you, etc.
Let's see, what is that again? I think it's Movie Justin 198. Let me double check that. And
yeah,
then,
that sounds about right.
And then Justin Peterson on the old letterbox.
Yeah, which if you listen to our normal podcast, you know all of that good stuff. So, but yeah, any just like on there, any comments, suggestions, thoughts, ideas, I'm happy to listen to them. I'm always looking for suggestions for Schlock, or if there's something hey, I just need to watch it, or something like that. I'll go ahead and tell you, Beast of Yucca Flats, we're gonna pass on that. I'm not re-sitting through that. I'm not sitting back through Mano's Hands of Fate. So y'all can just keep those and anything by Neil Breen. I am not trying to die while doing this. I'll sacrifice myself a little bit, but I'm not trying to die during these movies. So with that being said, thanks everybody, and join us next time on Schlock Talk, where we watch hot ass trash so you don't have to. Thanks and have a good night.
Later.